Assalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera. Anda bersama saya Rozman dan ini Niaga AWANI. Seperti biasa jam ini kami akan bawakan pelbagai perkembangan terkini niaga, ekonomi, pasaran dan juga perdagangan dari tempatan hinggalah antarabangsa, termasuk juga dengan iaitu prestasi ataupun perkembangan mengenai World Economic Forum WEF yang sedang berlangsung di Davos, Switzerland yang akan kami bawakan selepas ini. Dan antara laporan pertama yang akan kami mulakan dengan kadar faedah yang tinggi menjadi ancaman utama ekonomi untuk beberapa tahun mendatang, kata Presiden Peterson Institute for International Economics PIIE Adam Pozen. Menurut beliau, kadar faedah yang tinggi khususnya di Amerika Syarikat akan menjejaskan negara membangun.
What's going to be affecting human suffering and people around the world the next couple of years macroeconomically is going to be higher interest rates, which relates to something Allison was saying and relates to the geopolitics that Danny was referring to. If we're having to spend not just on demographics and things like that, but because human suffering deserves a response, because green transition needs public money, because unfortunately we're in a world where people are going to want to spend more on defense. All these things, that drives up interest rates in the end. And if we're dividing the world so there isn't as much capital flowing back and forth between China and US, that also probably drives up interest rates on average.
Tambah beliau, perkara yang lebih buruk adalah negara membangun akan sengsara jika kadar faedah jangka panjang Amerika Syarikat meningkat. Katanya penduduk yang terjejas adalah yang meminjam dan yang terjejas ketersediaan modal serta takbir urus awam di negara membangun. Posen pada masa sama berkata, perbelanjaan awam seharusnya ditingkatkan ketika ekonomi rapuh, namun ia harus segera diimbangi dengan kutipan cukai yang mampan.
If you're committing to spending a lot when you should, or I actually agree with Amritar. We should be spending a lot more and we should be taxing enough to pay for it. I would like to see a much bigger share of taxation, bigger share of public investment. The Global Collaboration Village Forum Ekonomi Dunia WEF ialah platform metaverse yang didorong dengan tujuan membawa pemimpin global bersama untuk menyelesaikan masalah dunia sebenar melalui potensi kolaborasi realiti maya. Platform ini direka bentuk untuk memudahkan pelibatan peserta yang mendalami melangkaui persidangan video menggunakan teknologi XR seperti avatar realistik dan audio spasial untuk memupuk pertukaran yang bermakna dan memperdalam pelibatan. Ikuti perkongsian editor Niaga AWANI, Najib Aroff dari Davos, Switzerland.
Okey, diskusi di World Economic Forum 2024 ini bukan hanya melihat kepada fizikal, siapa yang hadir, pemimpin mana yang hadir dan sebagainya, tapi juga ia dibawa ke peringkat yang lebih tinggi iaitu dalam metaverse yang mana ia akan menghubungkan seluruh dunia kalau boleh membincangkan isu-isu semasa, dan ini paling penting sebab semua pandangan di peringkat dunia itu akan dibawa cuma dalam bentuk metaverse tersebut, dan ini sangat menarik dan diberi nama sebagai Global Collaboration Village. Saya nak membincangkan perkara ini dalam episod pada kali ini. Saya bersama dengan Cik Huang yang merupakan President of the Global Collaboration Village at the World Economic Forum. Cik, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
First of all, let's explain about the Global Collaboration Village, GCV, and also can you elaborate the vision behind GCV?
Absolutely, and first of all, it's thank you for having me on today, and I'm regretting not bringing my jacket. So it is quite cold here in Davos, but overall, the Global Collaboration Village is an extension, a strategic extension of the World Economic Forum, as you mentioned before. So what does that mean? Well, we built it with Microsoft as well as Accenture in partnership with them. Immersive experience where it's become an immersive problem-solving tool. So we bring folks from all over the world here in Davos, as well as even at home. We have constituents coming into this Global Collaboration Village, collaborating on key issues affecting the global environment.
Yeah, but in what ways do you see the immersive technology specifically for VR and XR, redefining the way we engage with the current global issue in the interconnected world?
I mean, it's going to be very transformative. So remember, today is literally day 2 of the global collaboration being live, but we've already had heads of state join us. We've had folks from as wide as Brazil all the way to Japan, all the way to Saudi today joining us. So folks who cannot travel here to Davos, or folks who haven't been able to attend Davos for whatever reasons, we're breaking down those geographical barriers. So of course it's very important. What we're doing here at the forum in Davos is very important, but there are also folks that we should give voices to no matter where you are in the world, and I think that's how we change that collaborative conversation.
Yeah, let's talk about the GCV GCV's unique approach to democratizing access to a global conversation, also knowledge and decision making, and how it contributes to a more inclusive and accessible global community.
Yeah, you know, even though I do feel like over the last 50 years, the World Economic Forum has really opened up what we do here. So there's over 200 sessions being live streamed, in-person sessions being live streamed. There's thousands of delegates from all over the world here, but we really want to open up that impact. So how do we do that? Well, right now you can do it via a 2D screen like the live stream, but there's also no, I guess, replacement to doing something in person.
Yeah.
So what is that in between where perhaps you know, you want to show something more immersive or something more interactive that you cannot do just via slides on a video conference, but you also can't travel all the way to Davos. And so is there an in-between? Well, virtual reality, spatial computing, all these technologies that are growing so quickly, we can begin to do that, and we have. So like I said before, from Brazil to Japan to Saudi to folks on site here, heads of state, engaged citizens, they're all doing that in the Global Collaboration Village.
And how does the GCV ensure the integration and also diverse perspectives from around the world, and also encourage virtual participation from around the globe as well? And what impact does this have in fostering a more connected global community as a whole?
I think dialogue is always good. So the World Economic Forum, the reason why we are here today is for over 50 years, we've created an open forum where dialogue can occur. We know without dialogue, problems are very difficult to solve. And so how do we harness technology? Of course, with video conference, first with the internet, now video conferencing. But we'd love to be at the forefront of technology, and immersive technology and spatial computing has been moving more and more forward into that forefront. I know in Malaysia, definitely Malaysia has taken a role in that as well. So when you go to the malls in Malaysia and around KL, you're definitely seeing more and more immersive experiences, whether they're some of the theme parks that have a virtual roller coaster. Those are all beginning to pop up around KL, around Malaysia, and around the world. So we want to harness that for the public-private collaboration good.
And how are the civil societies, organizations and businesses leveraging the GCV Stakeholders Campus on to showcase, you know, their thought and leadership, and also convince stakeholders to cross-sector innovation and to address global challenges?
Yeah, so it's a historic week for us because for the first time there's public and private collaboration happening at this level using immersive technology like VR. So, you know, what's interesting about what I just said is because it's not only public, but it's also private as well. So private enterprise can showcase what they're doing, their innovations on how they're trying to tackle key global issues by a pavilion in our stakeholder campus. So much like you see here, physically in Davos, different companies have different kind of ways to showcase what they're innovating on. We can now do that in an immersive environment using the Global Collaboration Village. It's not just private, but also public as well. So Interpol also has a pavilion, as well as our Arctic Base Camp. So no matter the issue, we want folks to utilize this technology to help solve problems.
That's the thing I want to ask for the final questions, and also a lot of topics being discussed here are quite sensitive in that nature, right? In the sense that for the audience across the globe. But how does the GCV contribute to the global problem solving as a whole? Because I know, especially to the certain sensitive topics being discussed here.
It's a really good question. So I think at the end of the day, how we do it is how we've done it through the entire forum for 50 years. It's by encouraging dialogue amongst different constituents that really care and who are in a position to add to the dialogue and help solve that global challenge. So again, it doesn't just have to be because you're a business leader. That's very important though. You could be a head of state. That's also very important. But it can also in the future be just engaged citizens that feel like, hey, there's an issue there. I'd love to attend a World Economic Forum session where I can contribute to that dialogue. It's quite difficult now. You can consume some of the sessions that we're airing here, but in the future, you're going to be able to contribute to that dialogue. And once you're in the metaverse and once you're in these immersive experiences, the other participants you know, they don't know if you're here, or they don't know if you're all the way back in Malaysia, or if you're in Saudi Arabia, or if you're in the United States. It's everyone at the same table. So I think that'll be a very interesting moment for us.
Now, in the World Economic Forums, we have the YGL, the Young Global Leaders, and of course, this is very important to get the youngsters' opinion and also voice, you know, and combine it together with the pressing issues and topics. And of course, when I talk about metaverse, immersive experience, and all that, the robustnesses are with the youngsters.
That's
but
right.
how do you think that the GCV basically further propel the interest of the youngsters, you know, to listen and to join the conversation?
So there's a lot of that conversation happening here in Davos. So in the hallways, I've had so many interesting conversations with delegates. One, of course, AI is very important, and how the next generation will embrace that, not just as something that they're finding out how to use and how to deploy in their daily lives, but also growing up with it. You know, how will that change kind of their daily interactions and their thought process on different roles throughout society? What's interesting is that I think virtual reality is going to be the same thing. So right now, when we put folks into headsets, you have to explain usually, like, hey, this is how you move around, this is how you interact. If you lift your hand up here, you're going to do so in the metaverse as well. And so I think future generations, it will just be, you know, part of how they grew up, and they'll know exactly how to use it. So I'd like to say, if you rewind back in time, I'm sure when the internet was first showcased here in Davos, I'm sure no one really knew how to, like, you know, navigate around a computer. And I'm sure in the years ahead, we'll look back and find it kind of like, oh, an interesting moment that we had to show people how to use a headset or goggles, where in the future, I think it'll be the form factor and just the familiarity of it will become very native for everyone.
All right. Lastly, what do you expect for the next World Economic Forums when it comes to GCV yourself?
I think you're going to see us scale up the impact that we have, the amount of attendees that can join sessions. That's what we're really aiming to do. This year, though, in the first ever year, we already have 30+ sessions on the overall event plan here. And we have hundreds of folks, again, heads of state, business leaders, engaged citizens, all joining in. We want to take that to the next level. So that means more participants, more impact, and also even better technology. So in partnership with Microsoft and Accenture, we've gotten to this place. I think with them, we're going to go even further as hardware and software continues to proceed, like all technology does.
All right, Chair, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate your time. Itu adalah bagaimana kita melihat perubahan yang tambah baik lah kiranya yang ada di World Economic Forum ini sangat-sangat menarik untuk kita melihat, kerana akhirnya engagement, discussion itu dibawa ke peringkat yang lebih tinggi dan juga ramai dapat sertai golongan muda dan pelbagai golongan yang lain. Semua pandangan ini kita rangkumkan dan juga kita melihat kepada solusi dan juga idea penyelesaian yang lebih menarik. Itu saja laporan untuk jam ini dari World Economic Forum di Davos, Switzerland.
Baik, itu adalah perkembangan mengenai WEF di Davos, Switzerland. Kita akan teruskan dengan perkembangan iaitu pasaran semasa. Kita nak lihat bagaimanakah prestasi FBM KLCI sepanjang minggu ini, apa yang menjadi sentimen serta hala pergerakan pada minggu hadapan. Kita bersama dengan Syed Muhammad Kifni Syed Kamarudin, merupakan Koto Strategi MIDF Research. Saya nak ucapkan terima kasih Syed Kifni kerana sudi meluangkan masa bersama kami. Mungkin pertama sekali Kifni boleh kongsikan bagaimanakah prestasi FBM KLCI sepanjang minggu ini memandangkan beberapa faktor mungkin mempengaruhi pergerakan pasaran saham.
Terima kasih atas jemputan ke AWANI. Sepanjang minggu ini, indeks FBM KLCI jatuh 8 mata atau 0.6% kepada 1,479 pada penutup semalam. Namun, pasaran ekuiti tempatan diniagakan tinggi pada awal minggu ini dengan indeks FBM KLCI naik melebihi paras psikologi 1,500 mata dengan penutup pada hari Isnin lalu yang tertinggi dalam tempoh hampir 14 bulan atau semenjak bulan November tahun 2022. Bagaimanapun beberapa faktor luaran kemudiannya mendorong tindakan para pelabur menjual sebahagian pergerakan mereka yang mengakibatkan kejatuhan indeks FBM KLCI sepanjang minggu ini. Faktor pertama yang mempengaruhi prestasi pasaran ekuiti tempatan minggu ini adalah berkaitan kejatuhan di Wall Street market syarikat. Kejatuhan di Wall Street adalah berkait pengumuman angka ekonomi di market syarikat yang melebihi jangkaan pasaran. Prestasi jualan runcit negara tersebut pada bulan Disember yang lebih tinggi dari jangkaan menunjukkan keteguhan kadar permintaan dalam ekonomi negara tersebut dan oleh itu kemungkinan risiko kenaikan harga didorong permintaan atau demand pull inflation. Perkara ini dilihat akan pula mendorong pihak Reserve Persekutuan Amerika Syarikat untuk bertindak kurang agresif atau lebih berhati-hati dalam cadangan pemotongan kadar faedah pada tahun ini. Perubahan dalam jangkaan pasaran terhadap tahap tindakan pihak Reserve Persekutuan Amerika itu bukan sahaja mempengaruhi harga-harga saham di pasaran ekuiti, malah aset-aset kewangan yang lain seperti di besaran bond juga mengalami tekanan jualan dengan yang kadar hasil atau yield tempoh matang 10 tahun bagi bond perbenaran Amerika Syarikat meningkat kembali melebihi paras 400. Maklum bahawa harga bond menurun apabila hasil atau yield menaik dan juga sebaliknya. Dan seterusnya, kenaikan kadar hasil atau yield bagi bond perbenaran Amerika Syarikat diiringi kenaikan nilai dolar Amerika di pasaran mata wang antarabangsa. Dan sepanjang minggu ini nilai ringgit susut berbanding dolar Amerika ke paras 4.71 pada penutup semalam. Dan faktor kedua yang mempengaruhi prestasi pasaran ekuiti tempatan minggu ini adalah pengumuman kadar pertumbuhan KDNK negara China bagi sepuluh terakhir tahun lepas yang lebih rendah daripada jangkaan pasaran. Di samping itu, data pertumbuhan jualan runcit negara tersebut bagi bulan Disember juga mencatatkan angka yang kurang dari jangkaan pasaran berikutan keputusan prestasi ekonomi yang ketinggalan jangkaan. Pasaran ekuiti negara China mengalami penurunan dengan indeks Shanghai Composite jatuh 1.3% sepanjang minggu ini. Sebagai negara yang merupakan negara dagang terbesar bagi Malaysia, keadaan ekonomi negara China juga mempengaruhi prestasi ekonomi dan pasaran ekuiti negara kita.
Jadi bagaimana kaunter atau sektor mana yang mendahului dan mana yang mengalami kejatuhan?
Sepanjang minggu ini, 10 daripada 13 sektor didagang pada tahap yang lebih rendah. Ini seiring kelemahan pasaran saham secara amnya. Hanya indeks sektor telekomunikasi, peladangan dan juga REIT mengalami kenaikan. Sektor telekomunikasi mencatatkan kenaikan tertinggi sepanjang minggu ini sebanyak 1.5%. Trend menaik indeks sektor telekomunikasi semenjak pertengahan bulan Disember tahun lepas adalah dilihat bertunjangkan prospek dan penyelesaian isu-isu berhubung perkhidmatan 5G di negara kita. Dan sektor peladangan mencatatkan kenaikan kedua tertinggi sepanjang minggu ini dengan kenaikan 0.3%. Kenaikan indeks sektor peladangan semenjak awal tahun ini adalah dilihat seiring dengan pemulihan harga minyak sawit mentah di pasaran antarabangsa. Manakala indeks sektor pembinaan mengalami kejatuhan terbesar sepanjang minggu ini dengan kejatuhan sebanyak 3.2%. Kejatuhan ini dilihat sebagai aktiviti pengambilan untung setelah indeks tersebut mengalami kenaikan sebanyak hampir 9% pada 2 minggu pertama tahun ini.
Jadi bagaimana peningkatan atau penurunan prestasi FBM KLCI ini memberi impak kepada pelabur tempatan dan juga pelabur antarabangsa, dan bagaimanakah hala tuju ataupun jangkaan hala pergerakan pasaran saham dalam masa terdekat, Kifni?
Prospek ekonomi makro tempatan dan juga antarabangsa dijangka akan menunjukkan pertumbuhan yang positif bagi tahun ini. Kami sasarkan Malaysia akan mencatat pertumbuhan KDNK antara 4 hingga 5% pada tahun ini, manakala di Amerika Syarikat pertumbuhan KDNK dijangka akan lebih perlahan namun kekal positif pada 1 ke 2%. Dengan pertumbuhan positif ekonomi makro, keputusan kewangan syarikat juga dijangka akan menunjukkan pertumbuhan yang positif. Oleh itu kami menjangkakan prestasi pasaran saham antarabangsa secara amnya dan pasaran tempatan khasnya akan mengalami trend kenaikan pada tahun ini. Dan tahun 2024 telah bermula dengan baik bagi pasaran ekuiti tempatan. Indeks dan KSCI mendahului atau outperform kebanyakan indeks utama asing dengan kenaikan sebanyak 1.7% sepanjang tahun ini. Sebagai bandingan di rantau ASEAN, indeks STI Singapura, SCT Bangkok dan JCI Jakarta dia masing-masing turun antara 1 hingga 3% sepanjang tahun ini. Dan di peringkat antarabangsa, indeks Dow Jones susut hampir 0.5% atau slightly more than 0.5%, 0.6%. Manakala Shanghai Composite dan Hong Kong Hang Seng juga masing-masing jatuh antara 4 hingga 9%. Namun dalam tempoh terdekat kami menjangka konsolidasi di pasaran ekuiti tempatan setelah kenaikan harga-harga saham dicatat sejak awal tahun ini yang membawa indeks FBM KSCI kepada paras rintangan atau resistance 1,500 mata. Kami lihat konsolidasi harga-harga saham ini sebagai proses pembinaan dasar atau base building sebelum melonjakkan seterusnya melepasi paras rintangan tersebut.
Dan saya nak ucapkan terima kasih kepada Syed Muhammad Kifni Syed Kamarudin, merupakan Ketua Strategi MIDF Research, kerana bantu kami berkongsi tentang prestasi FBM KLCI sepanjang minggu dan bagaimana untuk kita memahami lebih mendalam iaitu pergerakan ataupun hala tuju FBM KLCI dalam masa terdekat. Dan semua perbincangan ini akan kami rangkumkan dalam astro.com dan di semua platform digital dan media sosial.
Malaysia telah meraih 27.2 bilion ringgit daripada ekspor getah pada 2023 dengan 70% atau 19.04 bilion ringgit daripadanya adalah daripada sarung tangan getah, kata Majlis Getah Malaysia MRC. Produk getah Malaysia dieksport ke lebih 190 negara dengan Amerika Syarikat 29% dan Kesatuan Eropah 19% sebagai dua destinasi ekspor utama. Eco World Development Group Berhad atau Eco World Malaysia bercadang membeli 13 bidang tanah berjumlah 97.25 hektar di Iskandar Puteri Johor bagi membangunkan perbandaran, kediaman dan komersial bercampur dengan anggaran awal nilai pembangunan kasar atau GDV 3.88 bilion ringgit. Pembangunan yang dicadangkan itu akan terdiri daripada produk mampu milik, kediaman tinggi dan kediaman bertanah sesuai untuk pembeli rumah kali pertama dan kumpulan sasaran M40. Kementerian Peralihan Tenaga dan Daya Guna Awam melalui pihak berkuasa Pembangunan Tenaga Lestari Sedar Malaysia meluluskan pembangunan bagi pelaksanaan 22 projek tenaga boleh baru daripada sumber biogas dan biodiesel berjumlah 36.534 megawatt. Kelulusan tersebut dibuat di bawah mekanisme tarif galakan yang akan membekalkan tenaga elektrik hijau kepada Tenaga Nasional Berhad TNB seawal 2027. Laporan penuh di saluran 501 dan astro.com serta daganews.com.
Baik, kita akan teruskan dengan pergerakan ringgit di mana pada waktu penutupan ringgit ditutup rendah pada hari Khamis berbanding dolar Amerika Syarikat apabila pengurangan pertama kadar faedah oleh Rizab Persekutuan Amerika Syarikat Fed dilihat sebagai pemacu utama bagi sentimen enggan ambil risiko dalam kalangan pelabur. Dan pada 6 petang ringgit susut kepada 4.7165 berbanding dolar Amerika Syarikat daripada 4.7145 ketika ditutup pada Rabu. Dan untuk kita lihat bagaimanakah prestasi nilai ringgit Malaysia pada pembukaan hari Jumaat, ia berada pada paras 4.715 dan prestasi nilai ringgit Malaysia ataupun pergerakannya dalam tempoh seminggu daripada 14 Januari hinggalah 19 Januari, kita lihat iaitu trendnya adalah trend menyusut, di mana sekiranya graf ini meningkat bermakna ringgit kita semakin lemah dan menyusut dan merosot. Dan kita lihat dalam tempoh seminggu iaitu nilai ringgit yang tertinggi ia berada lebih kurang pada paras 4.640 dan nilai ringgit yang paling lemah dalam tempoh seminggu ia pernah dicapai pada 4.7214 dan itu adalah range ataupun kadar purata nilai ringgit Malaysia pergerakannya dalam tempoh seminggu. Dan kita akan teruskan dengan prestasi FBM KLCI di mana Bursa Malaysia ditutup rendah pada Khamis dengan kaunter rugi mengatasi kaunter untung berikutan tekanan jualan secara menyeluruh dalam persekitaran sentimen negatif dalam pasaran. Terdapat kekurangan sokongan belian susulan selepas indeks barometer ditutup melebihi halangan psikologi 1,500 yang kali terakhir dicatatkan pada Ogos 2022 pada Isnin, kata peniaga. Dan pada 5 petang, Fuksi Bursa Malaysia KLCI atau FBM KLCI merosot 12.03 mata kepada 1,479.18 daripada 1,491.21 pada Rabu. Dan untuk kita teliti bagaimanakah prestasi Bursa Malaysia setakat jam 9.13 pagi ini, ia berada pada paras 1,478.6 iaitu dia update sedikit 1478.88 bersamaan dengan negatif 0.02%. Prestasi FBM KLCI kita menurun sebanyak negatif 0.44. Dan untuk kita lihat prestasi FBM KLCI kita dalam tempoh 5 hari sehinggalah hari ini 19 Januari 2024 iaitu trendnya kita dapat lihat trend meningkat pada awal Isnin sehinggalah Selasa iaitu ia berada pada paras paling tinggi pada lebih pada 1,500. Namun masuk Rabu prestasi FBM KLCI kita terus mengalami trend penurunan sehinggalah hari Jumaat ia berada pada paras pada pagi ini sebanyak 1,478.33 dan ini adalah prestasi Bursa Malaysia dan juga nilai ringgit Malaysia yang dapat kita saksikan setakat pagi ini. Banyak lagi laporan yang akan kami bawakan selepas ini. Jangan ke mana-mana, kami akan berhenti rehat seketika dan kembali selepas ini.
Filem lebih daripada sekadar cerita.
Let them come.
Ia menghubungkan kita.
We are going to stop that monster.
I'm working on this new case, a missing scientist.
Memberikan momen dihargai.
Do I look like a killer?
They're coming to get me.
Mengeratkan pertalian.
We're gonna have to fight.
Dan mendekatkan kita. Stream bila-bila masa di mana jua. WhatsApp Switch sekarang.
Kalah lagi ya?
Tak nak cari kerja, tak nak cari duit.
Tahu nak jadi programmer.
Mereka mempunyai impian.
Boleh dapat RM50,000. Jom. Kita kena masuk next. Sam kena terima offer masuk universiti tu. Kalau tak menang,
Mereka akan melawan takdir.
What is going to do? Diorang kantoi hack. Kita kena suka orang. Korang dah ready?
aku nak Sam jadi kapten. Kemuli, last game.
Games mangkuk. Stream ke semua episod on demand. Dan episod akhir di Astro Premier.
Gelombang keempat monsun timur laut ini beralih ke selatan tanah air dengan keadaan banjir di Johor semakin meningkat.
Ekonomi Malaysia dijangka berkembang 4.5% pada 2024 dan 4.6% pada tahun hadapan.
Seorang pelajar tingkatan 5 diculik sebelum dikurung, bekas teman lelakinya dikepung.
Tiada laporan rakyat Malaysia terjejas dalam tragedi pengeboman di Kerman Cemetery.
Bermula dengan mengambil resipi ibu mertua yang mahir membuat meruku sanggul, seorang wanita akhirnya menjadi usahawan meruku dan kerepek apabila produk dihasilkan mendapat sambutan hangat. Bukan itu saja, Nur Azlina Aman, 47 tahun, mampu menyewa premis menjual meruku dan kerepek atas nama Ina Resources di Pajak Song Kepala Batas Pulau Pinang selepas beberapa tahun beroperasi di rumah.
Dia mengambil keputusan membuka perniagaan sendiri pada 2014 selepas menyedari tidak ramai usahawan menghasilkan meruku sanggul.
Meruku sanggul ni sebenarnya adalah hasil usaha bapa mak mentua saya. Setelah dia membuat sendiri di rumah, lepas tu saya tengok dia berusaha mencuba menghasilkan meruku ni, nampak macam ada satu pasaran lah. Jadi saya ambil alih dan membuat sendiri meruku sanggul tu bersama suami. So permintaan makin hari makin bertambah. So saya pun buka satu bengkel sendiri dekat tepi rumah mak mentua saya. Dan sekarang ni terdapat banyak pemborong-pemborong datang ke kedai. So kita terpaksa membuka lagi satu macam sebuah kedai lah untuk mendapatkan hasil yang produk yang lebih ni, untuk dapatkan kuantiti yang lebih banyak. Saya menggunakan media sosial lah untuk pasarkan saya punya meruku sanggul ni. Alhamdulillah, nampak permintaan tu makin lama makin berkembang.
Selain perisa asli, Nur Azlina turut menghasilkan meruku sanggul perisa jagung, kacang pis dan kacang merah. Permintaan bagi produk tersebut meningkat berlipat kali ganda pada musim perayaan sehingga menyebabkan kaki tangan Ina Resources terpaksa bekerja pada hari cuti. Tambahnya pada hari biasa antara 15 hingga 20 kotak besar meruku sanggul dihasilkan dan meningkat kepada 50 kotak pada musim perayaan.
Boleh mendapat pasaran kita, boleh kata dalam sehari tu dalam 15 kotak yang besar lah. 15 kotak yang besar. Tu pun kadang-kadang kita tak sempat penuhi pasaran tu sebab selalu masuk order yang begitu tinggi. Pemetai kita banyak sebelah Kedah dan sebelah Perak. Yang kita pun memang sekarang ni cuba meningkatkan kita punya produk kita ni ke sebelah selatan lagi lah. Sebab baru-baru ni kita masuk dalam media sosial, banyak permintaan sebelah selatan, tapi kita tengah usaha untuk mendapatkan pemborong-pemborong lagi sebelah sana, untuk dapatkan ejen yang sebelah sana lah, untuk berkembangkan kita punya produk meruku sanggul kita ni.
Berikutan permintaan melebihi bekalan, Nur Azlina berhasrat meluaskan perniagaannya termasuk menambah mesin semi-auto bagi meningkatkan produktiviti harian. Selain untuk pasaran sedia ada, Ina Resources turut menyediakan produk meruku sanggul sebagai cenderahati pada majlis kenduri kahwin.
The financial services sector plays a vital role in a country's economic development and stability. To keep up with financial advancements, it's crucial for the sector to leverage secure and up-to-date technologies like robotic process automation (RPA). And only 44% of financial services sectors in Malaysia have adopted RPA, making it the lowest among Hong Kong and India. In the face of complex regulation, challenging environments, and extensive paper-related tasks, banks and financial institutions in Malaysia may lag in adopting innovative technologies. However, with evolving compliance regulation, changing business models, heightened customers' expectation, retention concerns and the threat of security breaches, now let's take a deep dive into how banks can embrace innovation. Let's welcome our guest, Mr. Tran Dang Hua, the chairman of FPT Information System, one of the mother company of AWANI. I want to say thank you very much, Mr. Hua, for joining us. Maybe firstly, can you provide a brief overview of what robotic process automation (RPA) is and its potential applications in the Malaysian financial industry especially?
Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to have you today. For AWANI, instead of using RPA term, we use virtual assistant or virtual workforce. It means that anything that can routine tasks, people can bot can mimic the human interactions and with the digital system. So they are designed to handle repeat rule-based tasks in daily communication. So anything routine, they can apply for bots for automation.
And what are the primary benefits that RPA can bring into the Malaysian financial institutions moving forward?
Yeah, there are many things that we can, if it repeatedly human can be replaced, like customer onboarding. When you when customer open or closing account, this need to put gather information, collecting information, and verify identity and generate necessary documents. And processing loan application, like when people filling the form, the bot can attract the data by OCR technology to attract the data and gather information and get it into the system. Or for the automate the customer support, so it can integrate with the AI generative to generate the contextual, sophisticated advice to customer, or maybe automated KYC.
Despite the evident benefits of incorporating automation into financial operations, it is surprising to note that only 44% of financial service sectors in Malaysia have adopted RPA. And what are the primary reasons behind the relatively low adoption rate of RPA in the financial sectors in Malaysia?
I think there are few, but number one is implementation cost. So when you implement the RPA, you need to initial costs. So the bank or the organization, when they're starting to implement, they don't know, they cannot calculate the return on investment. So the mission of Akabot or our platform at one of other platform is to reduce the initial cost to give the chance to apply the automation. And number two is lack of a skilled professional to implement the RPA. It is not hard, but you still have to study to understand how to create the bot and to run the bot. These are two main reasons. And for other, it still have some things more like you have the legacy infrastructure that isolates and cannot connect to others, or the process standardization. So every corporate, every company have different process in even department. So when you not standardize, the bot cannot apply. I think it's four major things that can stop a Malaysian company and organization to apply the RPA.
All right, I'm going to move to a bit smaller groups. Are there like specific challenges or barriers that organizations in collaboration with other companies in Malaysia face when considering the implementation of automation in financial operations?
Yeah, actually, there are many mainframe, many own system that cannot that isolate from the other, and we don't have the API to connect to the other modernized system. So it's costly, not only money but only workforce to do that. So this is one of the other concerns.
Many financial institutions still rely on outdated legacy systems to support their back-end operations across core functions such as account opening, account setup, transaction processing, and others. Can you provide an example of specific legacy system commonly found in financial institutions and how RPA can integrate with this system without disrupting day-to-day operations?
Yes, they are like the loan organization application. They have the system inside is from IBM mainframe, 50, 60 years old, and it's so isolated. So when do the task, people have to sitting down in the mainframe and do the task. So by using RPA, you can mimic the human, so they can capture the screen, extract the data and put into the new model. And surprisingly and luckily, that RPA is also the good candidate for data restrictions, because on the track record data is tracking, so it's vital for financial audit, and it's also enable people to modify the script for the new rule. So any regulation change, you can modify the bot, modify the script, and run on the new rule. And also automation can help ensure that sensitive financial personal data is not accessible by human eyes. So when people see it, it's sometimes sensitive data. So by using the bot, you can get about it. So it's a huge advantage of applying RPA.
And Mr. Hua, how do you address concerns related to data security and compliance during the integration of RPA into sensitive financial processes?
Yes, as I just said with you, the data there. But when you apply RPA, you can track on the traceability of the data, and you can give the flexibility to adapt to the new rule for the data privacy.
And given that the banks, we want to talk about this, before we touch on the bank's financial institution, maybe you can share to what degree can financial institution customize RPA workflows to adapt to industry-specific regulations and other limitations in terms of companies?
Yeah, so on the companies, there are many rules and regulations. Those should be reported and tracking daily, and it costs a lot of time and effort. Sometimes some companies have to request 100,000 tasks per day, just tracking the data through email, to folder, and everything. So by using humans, it's costly, and we can replace by RPA, so it can solve.
And move on to the banks and financial institution. Can you share specific use cases where RPA has accelerated financial reporting cycles and improved accuracy? And with the sensitivity of financial data, how does RPA also ensure data security and privacy in automated processes?
Yeah, actually, Akabot have 3 years, and we run over 4,000 customers around 20 countries, and we see a lot of use case in banks. And I just give 2 typical case studies for apply the RPA in bank. Number one is for internal service reporting description. So in one of our biggest bank company, so most of the internal finance service reporting the process of risk and management department, which require checking and scanning all of the customer response through email, and finding the results will be sent to related person in charge of finance, of legacies, and to provide all the information to notify to the user. So problem is that through that activities, it's on the simple task, but there can be over 1,000 requests per day. And process is also required frequently tracking and updating hour by hour, nearly 10 times a day per hour from 8 morning to 8 p.m. Too much time and effort to handle it. And after apply RPA, 100% of process can be handled automated, and handling up to 1,500 requests per day, saving 500 hours a month for all the employees. This is number one. It shows how RPA can be effectively for simple and manual tax. The second one is also the project that Akabot had done is for another bank in Vietnam is using the bot to do the currency transaction. So it's an active legal department to help prevent the money laundering in banks. The process also involves many steps from converting text file to Excel file, looking up information on a financial crime compliance, extracting to the file, and finally inform the user to the results. So the process is complex with a lot of steps involve handling various file formats and complicated tasks. Although there are only 25 days, employees still get overloaded. So after apply API, both can complete 100% process. So
okay, Mr. Hua, we have another balance of 2 minutes. Maybe I want to have my last question. Looking into Malaysia's potential in terms of RPE adoption in the next several years, can you share some insights into any upcoming partnerships or collaborations that Akabot is exploring to further enhance its capabilities in addressing the financial industry needs?
Sure, we see the Malaysia is a compelling market. You put a lot of effort on IT and for economic growth. So IT industry digitalization is the pioneer, and we see Vietnam and Malaysia is at similarity, and we can bring all of our practice in Vietnam to Malaysia. And FPT have 15 years in Malaysia. We have more than 500 local people, so we can leverage the local team there with and partnership with our strength in technology. We can help Malaysia to strengthen the RPA adoption and also digital transformation.
And we hope automation continues to fulfill and shift for most Malaysian businesses and even the financial institution moving forward, so we can enhance and harness the financial landscape. I want to say thank you very much to our guest, Mr. Tran Dang Hua, the chairman of FPT Information System, and all of our discussion here will be featured in AstroAwani.com.
Thank you very much.
Asia tumpuan utama dunia. Dengan ekonomi yang semakin rancak, pembangunan lestari dan tenaga boleh diperbaharui, apakah pula impak kecerdasan buatan AI dalam perkembangan teknologi dan masa depan pekerjaan? Kami mendalami setiap berita dan cerita. Saksikan diskusi, dialog dan laporan khas di Agenda AWANI Asia bersama koresponden khas kami setiap Sabtu 9 malam di semua platform Astro AWANI.
He looks so handsome today.
Kebahagiaan yang penuh kepura-puraan.
Nampaknya agak kena hati-hati dengan si Mayang tu. Tergetik depan Cik Azim.
Hai Puan Zaida.
Kecurangan yang berjaya dikaburi.
Saya sepatutnya kena balik lah.
Siapa yang awak takut sangat lah? Takut ketinggal ke?
Akhirnya rahsia terbongkar jua. Layang-layang perkahwinan di Astro dan On Demand.
Hello and welcome to Niaga Spotlight with me, Tehmina. Niaga Spotlight goes through the week in business and future affairs. Market watch, industries, analysis and insights, we've got you covered right here on Niaga Spotlight. So this week on future affairs, we look at the Red Sea crisis and economic impact. Now, 100 days and counting of Israeli genocide concentrated in Gaza against Palestinians has spilled over into the Red Sea crisis. Yemen-based Houthi rebels and militants have carried out insofar 27 attacks involving drones and missiles on container ships and vessels in the Red Sea since November last year. More than 90% of ship containers have been rerouted to the tip of South Africa, amounting to over $200 billion worth of goods diverted to avoid the militants. With the Suez Canal accounting for 12% of global trade by December alone, these delays had actually caused a 1.3% decline in world trade. Now, closer to home, Malaysia's maritime industry contributes about 40% of annual GDP, with more than 90% of Malaysia's exports by sea. Clearly, the threat of disruption to world trade and global supply chains, with Malaysian industry players and consumers being affected, is very real indeed. Dr. Zokri Idris, Senior Fellow with Defence and Security with Rabdan Academy in Abu Dhabi, joined me to discuss the significance of the Red Sea shipping route, which has already prompted action from 10 nations. Let's watch.
Dr. Zokri, thank you so much for making time to join us on Niaga Spotlight, all the way from Rabdan Academy in Abu Dhabi. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Tehmina, for having me this evening. I'm doing well and good. I hope that it's the same for you as well.
Absolutely. So, Dr. Zokri, let's get the conversation started. Now, looking at the Red Sea crisis, but firstly, let's set the tone for what's actually happening and why. What is the strategic importance of the Red Sea in terms of specifically security implications and the wider reaching impacts on trade?
Thank you. From the strategic point of view, any invasions of the Red Sea will imply the unavailability for us to use the Suez Canal. Now, the Suez Canal is actually a bridge between the European region as Middle East and the Asian region. It is a very important slot, sea-lined operation and communication that bridges between these two regions. And any disruptions that happens on the Red Sea will have implications in terms of increase of the voyage with thousands of miles. We also will see an increase of days utilized for deliveries and cargoes, and definitely the cost of operation will be increased. Now, if we sum up all of that, it will actually be absorbed to consumers like us, even if we are not within the region. It will definitely reach to our pocket as consumers to this product, because the global supply chain is very much inevitable these days in the world of globalizations. And we also have to know what the data seems to suggest, that the Red Sea is actually accommodating 12% of the global trade. Now, it takes also 30% of the global traffic involving the vessels that worth amounting to $1 trillion of goods. So the volume and the scale of trade is definitely huge of what's happening in the Red Sea. Now, obviously, as an alternative, people would say that we can also encircle Africa via the Cape of Good Hope. But when we actually calculated the journey, if we encircle Africa via the Cape of Good Hope, it will actually increase 10 extra days of voyage of these vessels, as well as it will take up more than $1 million increase of its cost. So definitely it's not a viable way for consumers or even to the Southeast Asian economies, especially we are still in the process of the COVID-19 pandemic economic recovery. So the increase of this cost will definitely have an implications to consumers and the Southeast Asian economies. And not only to Southeast Asia, obviously to the whole world, because as I said, the Red Sea that contains the Bab el-Mandeb Strait is where the militarization is happening actively right now, as well as the Suez Canal as one of the very small choke points in the world that connects between the West and the East.
Thank you so much for highlighting the staggering numbers. Now, of course, in December, all the delays cumulatively caused actually a 1.3% decline in world trade. Moving along, would you say there is any historical precedents we can refer to looking at the Red Sea crisis right now, Dr. Zokri?
Now, in 2021, the very recent cases where the Suez Canal has been blocked. There was a blockage to use the Suez Canal due to high militarizations happening in the area. Now we also have seen on how trade has decreased quite significantly during that time. And historically, if we refer to the precedents in 1967 to 1975, due to war, the Suez Canal has also been closed and inoperative. Now, again, the Suez Canal alone will record a very high number of trade volumes, and these will actually save a lot of cost and actually money if we actually use the Suez Canal. And the data seems to suggest within the closure between 1967 to 1975, we have seen an increase of 10% of the cost using the oceans, and then that is very much high during that time. So again, the precedent is always there. That is a very high conflict and high militarizations area. And as I said before, even though that we can actually encircle Africa via the Cape of Good Hope, that will also increase the cost of its operation, and it will not be efficient and sustainable in the long term.
Sure. Thank you so much for that. And now with so many other states also getting involved in the conflict, particularly NATO states, could you share perhaps a situational analysis of what this augurs?
I think in the short term, let's begin with the short term to the medium term as well as in the long term. Now, in the short term, that we will see that the escalations will continue to happen, will continue to actually evaporate into the securitizations in the area, as well as the Bab al-Mandeb Strait and the Red Sea. And we have seen on how the interventions of major superpowers like the UK, the US, as well as involving Houthi rebels will definitely prolong for a period of weeks or even months. And we can expect that the Houthi rebels will be declined in terms of tactical power, but we are not sure on how that the influence can also be curbed. Now, in terms of the medium term, we will be probably expecting an increase of oil prices. As I said, now even in December that we have seen an increase of more than 60%. And in January, we are seeing the increase of 78%. And in February, if this continues to persistently happening in the Red Sea, we are seeing an increase of 94% of oil prices. And that is actually a huge price to pay, especially to the Southeast Asian economy. Again, I must say in the medium term, the Southeast Asian economy is still not recovered from its pandemic recovery process. So any cost is definitely a huge price for us to pay. And we cannot just calculate that it is not as significant to other big players of the economy, as this will definitely have a domino effect. Not only within the MENA region, Middle East and North Africa region, it will have a domino effect to Asia region as well as Southeast Asia region. Now, in the long term, Tehmina, we will still see that the Red Sea is a viable and a strategic way for SLOC, the Sea Lines Operation and Communications. It saves a lot of time and a lot of costs, and we don't see circling the Cape of Good Town is sustainable in a very long term. Therefore, there are many stakeholders that is really paying attention to what's happening in the Red Sea. However, I think that the risk of this conflict will prolong and perhaps will becoming more complications as what's happening in the Red Sea is a consequences of conflicts that's happening in the Middle East region. And those dots is actually suggesting that it is not a one per se or a single issue in the Red Sea, but it's also a connection with other issues and securitizations that happens in the Red Sea. But we will also perhaps, we might see the shift in the long term in which that the productions and manufacturing of goods and the consumption will shift towards Asia and will shift towards Southeast Asia because the slot has been disrupted. So we might see there is a shift towards Southeast Asia. And I think this is the opportunity that Southeast Asian economies as well as the Northeast Asian economies to grab to make sure that the consumption as well as the innovation and productions is well balanced and well maintained, so that the economy will have an interdependency within the region. This is to actually minimize the impact and the implications of having too reliance on the other regions outside of Southeast Asia.
Thank you. Thanks very much for that fantastic analysis and really setting the tone for what's happening with regards to the Red Sea crisis. Dr. Zokri, it's been a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
We take a break now. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with Niaga Spotlight and a follow-up interview going deeper into the business side of things when it comes to the Red Sea crisis and economic impacts. Stay with us.
Dua beradik bawah umur dipercayai dieksploitasi ibu mereka telah pun diselamatkan oleh pihak JKM, iaitu Jabatan Kebajikan Masyarakat.
Yang di-Pertuan Agong bertitah bahawa Istana Negara tidak akan terlibat dalam sembarang percaturan politik.
KPM belum putuskan bila pelajar perlu pakai semula seragam sekolah. Pemakaian sedia ada diteruskan sehingga ia diputuskan kelak.
Dua anggota polis ditahan kerja sehinggalah siasatan kes samun dan rogol.
Mana bahan-bahan letupan? Bum. Satu benda je aku percaya dalam hidup aku. Insting aku.
Khalid! Kan aku dah cakap, kalau kita recon betul-betul tak adalah kecoh macam ni.
We know where is the bomb.
Nak tengok pesta bunga api kat tengah Kuala Lumpur.
War on Terror, sewa dan stream on demand atau ke saluran 480.
Welcome back to Niaga Spotlight, still with me, Tehmina Kaoosji. Now, continuing the conversation, Tan Sri So Thian Lai, President with the Federation of Malaysian Manufacturers, or FMM, joined me to discuss the impact of the Red Sea crisis on global supply chains, as well as key strategies to ensure the impact does not escalate and then further burden Malaysian businesses and the economy. Let's watch.
Tan Sri So, thank you so much for making time to join us on Niaga Spotlight. Lovely to have you with us.
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me.
Tan Sri, of course, looking at the Federation of Malaysian Manufacturers, I would love to get your thoughts regarding the ongoing Red Sea crisis and some of the impacts which could already be felt by Malaysian manufacturers, exporters, importers, and the shipping industry players. I think it's very important that FMM helps us to frame this, especially considering the maritime industry. It contributes about 40% of our GDP, and of course, about 90% of Malaysia's exports go out by sea.
The Federation of Malaysian Manufacturers is deeply concerned and also very alarmed that the escalating security crisis unfolding in the Red Sea region, which has forced several of the world's largest shipping lines to divert vessels away to a much longer route around the southern tip of the Africa instead. Through circumnavigating Africa at about 1 to 2 weeks of a longer time to reach the destination. And this will not only will increase the cost and also to increase the time to deliver the goods to the customers, especially to Middle East and to North Africa and to Europe markets. And we are quite concerned that with this longer period of delivery time by the shipping lines will increase the cost to Malaysia's exporters and also importers.
Absolutely. Now, actually, some statistics are showing that large ships may actually be incurring almost about 100,000 USD just in fuel costs for each day of travel. Of course, there's also other extra costs as well. So looking at a little bit deeper into the same question, Tan Sri, would you be able to say that for freight forwarders, warehouses, especially any of the Malaysian players, would they be looking at any benefits because local maritime players may actually gain from rising rates?
Actually, the importers and exporters or shippers, they can consider FOB means free on board basis for exporting during this period of time. And with this FOB, the cost will be at the purchaser side. It means that at the importer side. With these action plans, I believe that the shippers in Malaysia, especially, can reduce the impact because of this Red Sea crisis.
Very interesting indeed. Now, higher international prices, of course, will affect purchasing power and maybe even our domestic demand, right?
Yeah.
So moving along from there, looking at the fact that the beginning of the year, especially in 2024, Tan Sri So, Q1 and Q2 are projected to be very high demand periods. There are going to be several global festivities. Of course, we've got the upcoming Lunar New Year season, which will be followed quite quickly by Ramadan. So what are FMM's recommendations for shippers to help to minimize delays, to meet customer demands, and also reduce the impact of the Red Sea situation?
For FMM, we would like to ask importers and exporters to carry out the following action plans. Number one is to advance export bookings. So it means that we can ask the shipping liners for a clear deadline for all the cargoes to be shipped out in advance. And we also advise our shippers to get support needed from shipping lines so that to facilitate shippers to plan their business operations. FMM also calls on the shipping companies to honor the pre-book freight rate, because all the shippers, when they book, they will have freight rates being determined much earlier. We would like the shipping lines to assist all the importers and exporters to honor these pre-book freight rates so that the Malaysian shippers will not incur any extra costs. And the next action plans that we would like to suggest to our shippers or importers or exporters is to explore any multimodal transportation options. It means that manufacturers are to consider combining different modes of transportation. Now you see we can from air, rail, or road to optimize shipping routes to reduce delays and also to lower the shipping costs. Air freight, although may not cater for large volume,
sure,
but can still offer more flexibility for those high value added goods.
Yes, definitely. So certainly looking at some options rather than be stuck when it actually comes to the crunch time, right? And in some country, have you noticed that any of the manufacturers or other associations, are they heeding FMM's recommendations? And how quick will it be? Will they be able to pivot should the situation perhaps worsen in the next few weeks?
At the moment, so far, many of our FMM members are using the FOB. So far, we have not received any complaints from our importers and exporters yet. If this Red Sea crisis further escalate, I believe that the situations might change. So it means that the ships could be delayed because of the different route. Then the ships come back will be delayed, and also will face shortage of containers. Now, if there is acute shortage of containers, then the cost might further escalate. This is our big concern.
Container shortages, that would be extremely concerning, definitely, for the Malaysian maritime-based economy. Tan Sri, if we could now then go into another very interesting area of discussion that this brings up, actually, once again, not for the first time. What didn't happen during the COVID-19 lockdown, a wider pivot didn't actually occur to looking at ASEAN as a supply chain hub. Once again, now another opportunity arises for this actually. What are FMM's thoughts about this? Having the fact that the Red Sea crisis, yes, it's happening, but let's now look at ASEAN to become a supply chain hub rather than be always in a situation where we are looking at the supply chain being at risk and how we can move towards in a crisis like this.
In actual fact, during the COVID-19 pandemic, we have learned important lessons that at that time we faced all sorts of PPE shortage. And now with this Red Sea crisis, I think it's time for us to learn how to get more products or raw materials from nearshoring. It means that we can work closely with all ASEAN countries, and we need to have more collaboration so that our supply chain security can be further improved. The varying levels of economic development in ASEAN and coupled with each country's industry specialization allow greater complementation rather than competition between member countries in ASEAN. This is what we think. For example, when we have the RCEP, Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreements,
yes.
This is a very important multilateral agreements that among all the ASEAN countries can work together and can share the data. And it is important that all the ASEAN countries are prepared, whether do they agree to share the information among ASEAN countries during this crisis time or not.
Absolutely. So I think what you pointed out is that perhaps we need a lot more collaboration, but probably this will be more private sector related. What are your thoughts on that? Or do you see perhaps a wider movement amongst ASEAN governments to recognize this opportunity, even of course in the midst of a crisis?
During 2020, FMM they proposed for all the manufacturing sectors in whole ASEAN to set up an ASEAN manufacturing network together with 9 other manufacturing and trade-related associations in ASEAN. This includes like Singapore Manufacturing Federation to jointly develop recommendations to the ASEAN governments that will assist manufacturers to strengthen their positions in regional and global value chains, not only to further bolster resilience against evolving challenges, but also to capitalize on foreign investors trying to diversify their supply chains beyond China, as well as to attract Chinese investment diversion to ASEAN. And these are also on China +1. It means the European Union organizations or American companies, they can choose ASEAN, especially Malaysia, as their investment center. And with this ASEAN Manufacturing Network, there is communications among the ASEAN countries. We hope that the ASEAN countries can officially adopt this ASEAN Manufacturing Network. In fact, ASEAN Business Advisory Council did agree to set up this ASEAN Manufacturing Network. The issue is the implementation on this ASEAN Manufacturing Network, whether it's effective for all ASEAN countries to adopt or not.
Absolutely. But at the same time, the opportunity is definitely very attractive. We've had a solid economic performance all across ASEAN, together with a combined GDP of more than 3 trillion USD. Thank you for pointing that out, Tan Sri So. Tan Sri, from there, moving along to, of course, the fact that this week is also the World Economic Forum happening in Davos. And economists have also noted during Davos that there are increasing worries that the world's major economies may now suffer an overall recession this year due to the Red Sea crisis. What are some strategies, in your opinion, for Malaysia to cushion against this scenario, considering, of course, our dependency on our major trade partners?
FMM would like to suggest that to have export diversification as the main strategy so that we are not depending on our conventional or traditional export markets. At the same time, we also need to strengthen our Malaysian SMEs, to upskill their business model, and to grow across borders. And we believe that the key strategy that will help us achieve trade expansions is a free trade agreements. Currently, the latest information that show the trade with FTA countries contribute over 65% of our Malaysia's total trade. In order to diversify our trade beyond our current major partners, we are also pushing the governments to explore non-traditional markets through the preferential trade agreements. The non-traditional markets can be Middle East, can be Eastern Europe, it can be Central Asia, and in Africa markets. So we believe that all these markets are big potential for Malaysia, but we need our governments to give more market development grant to our SMEs so that they are prepared to export to these non-traditional markets. And we also understand that Malaysia also has some progress in the Middle East, the Comprehensive Economic Partnership, for example, Malaysia, UAE, Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, and we hope that Malaysia is able to sign this. And FMM is also a strong proponent to Malaysia government to resume Malaysia-EU free trade agreement so that we have more market access, so that we are able to export more of our value-added products to all these FTA countries.
Great point there. Thanks so much, Tan Sri So, for actually elaborating upon what the export diversification should ideally look like. And hopefully it's going to move and progress beyond just the signing table for such agreements so that we can actually see what this looks like in real time, right? Rather than waiting for perhaps another even more expanded crisis. Wonderful. And Tan Sri So, one final area that I would love for you to help explain to us a little bit more. Now, let's look at the fact that our nearest neighbor, Singapore, for example, prepared contingency plans to cope with the supply chain disruption since the pandemic. What has been in Malaysia's similar playbook, and any further recommendations from FMM about the Red Sea crisis?
Regarding this subject, FMM would like to urge the Malaysian government to keep a close watch on the situation to ensure that the impact does not escalate and further burden businesses and the economy. A supply chain turbulence is likely to persist. Malaysian manufacturers will need to prepare contingency plans for import-export activities and also keep close contact with foreign partners and diversify source to protect their supply chains. In addition, we advise the exporters to include compensation clause and exemption of responsibility in emergencies as part of their contracts with the importers, and also insurance policies should be obtained to minimize financial risk. This is our proposal.
Absolutely. And I particularly am appreciative that you highlighted the need for insurance as well. But thank you. Thank you very much, Tan Sri So, for making time to share your excellent insights regarding the Red Sea crisis. It's been a pleasure having you on Niaga Spotlight.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So in conclusion, as of mid-December, Israel's only Red Sea port at Eilat reported an 85% drop in activity since the Houthi attacks began in November, pointing, of course, to a wider need for immediate and permanent ceasefire to continued Israeli genocide in Palestine and, in particular, Gaza. Managing this Red Sea crisis will be key to either continuing global economic recovery or risk sliding back. Well, that's all we have time for today. This has been Niaga Spotlight with me, Tehmina. Kaoosji. We'll see you next Friday with more business analysis and insights. Here's to a productive week ahead.